And welcome everybody back here on the channel. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media shell money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying YouTuber in YouTube entertainment today, and your favorite critical reviewer, Mr. General Zod. And today I will be reviewing something. I will be reviewing something that I've been super excited about, super hyped about. I've waited for damn near a year for this to come out. But the new Transformers Netflix original just dropped. Transformers: The War for Cybertron Part 1 Siege. So I'm going to be doing a spoiler and a non-spoiler review. So the first section of this review, this part I'm doing right now, will be non-spoilers. The next section, I'm going to spoil the crap out of it because I want to talk about specifically what I like and don't like about this series. And spoiler for that, I loved this series. I was so excited to be looking forward for something and to actually not be disappointed. So, welcome, Gary North. It's good to see you. And welcome to everyone who is watching this or will be watching this on the replay. So let me just dive right into this. I'm going to go through my pros, my cons, and then kind of give you guys like the overview, things like that. And then I'm going to deep dive after. So Transformers: The War for Cybertron is the new Transformers series that has come out. And it is based on the battle before the Transformers movies and or the original cartoons, all of that stuff. It is the original battles that took place before they got to Earth. And really, this story focuses on the characters of Optimus Prime, Megatron, and what this show does really well, what this show's biggest strength is that this show fleshes out both Optimus Prime and Megatron. Like before Megatron was kind of like, you guys remember the 80s cartoons, right? He's like, I'll get you next time, Optimus, that kind of a thing. What Netflix does really well in this show, and what this show in particular does really well, is it takes Megatron from being this like cartoonish kind of villain, and it actually gives him layers, and he kind of like becomes a Thanos, where like I understood by the end of this part why he was actually going to war. And Optimus kind of looks like a dick in this show. I'm not gonna lie. Like when they get to why they start fighting, it really like it flips and you almost see it from both sides. And the show has a lot of commentary in it, but it's not in your face. It's very tastefully done. And I feel like this is the show, if you're going to have commentary, that it's perfect on war and things like that. And it's just phenomenally done. So for those who haven't seen it or who don't want to be spoiled, this first part is non-spoiler, and then I'm going to spoil the shit out of it. And I'll give you a warning before I start diving into it. But my short synopsis is this. It was a phenomenal show. I've seen people giving it like sevens or what. That's just crazy. Like reviewers giving it a 7.5 and stuff. I easily give this part a 9. Like the only reason why I don't rate this a 10 is because I have a few nitpicks, and I'll get to those in a little bit. But honestly, this show is like a 9, very close to a 10, like on the line of being a perfect 10. The animation is gorgeous. There is some stuff in this that looks like photogenic, kind of real, like the realism. I don't like 3D animation, like not the way that they do it with cartoons, but this blends the 3D animation and the cartoon style, almost like a Pixar or a DreamWorks kind of a film. They blend the animation seamlessly. The voice acting is spot on. The story is really compelling. The battles are grand. it's dark. It is very dark. Like a lot of people die, and I like that this doesn't suffer like from the Star Trek thing, where y'all know if you watch Star Trek, you all know about Ensign Ricky, right? They never kill the main characters, so they always got like Ensign Ricky or James or something, and you're like, oh yeah, he's gonna die because no one knows who he is. They kill like four main people by the end of this first part. I'm like, holy shit, who are they just gonna off Optimus? Because like they kill, and I don't mean like they kill him and maybe they're coming back. I mean they flat out kill three major robots in this show, like before they even get off of Cybertron. Like three people, bam, dead, done. And they leave behind like four on a dying world. So it's like you don't know if they're going to live. So I'm going to get into the specifics of that because one of those deaths was quite possibly one of the best deaths I've seen done in a show. Like, folks, this didn't even feel like a cartoon. This felt like a 6-part movie. Like, Michael Bay should take notes because this is the kind of Transformers that I wanted. I'm so glad they didn't do The War for Cybertron as a live-action film. I'm so glad they chose to make it an animation. And Rooster Teeth, hats off. Hats off to you because this is by far the best writing I've seen for an animation and the best care and attention to detail in an animated show I've seen for years. For years. Rooster Teeth, if you guys don't know, they do Red versus Blue, a hilarious like knockoff Halo spoof. Started getting kind of serious towards the end. Rooster Teeth steps up their game. The studio does an amazing job animating, putting the scenes together. It's 6 parts, 24 minutes to 25 minutes a piece. But when you're watching it, it feels like so much longer. Like, I honestly thought in certain episodes, I'm like, oh, they're ending it. Nope, it had a little bit, and then boom, they would end it. But the structure is great. The fact that it's only 6 parts is perfect. This part doesn't even feel like to be continued except for a last little teaser. Yeah. Yeah, I know that joke, Gary. But this doesn't even feel like it doesn't have its own beginning, middle, and end. It says part 1. But you will leave this show feeling like you've seen a actual movie and they're just adding on to it. It's got a beginning, middle, and end, and all 6 parts wrap things up nicely. So for everyone who hasn't seen it, the voice acting is great. The animation is amazing. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Some of the shit looks so real. It's amazing. The themes are great. Check it out. That's my spoiler free. You've been warned. I'm going to spoil the shit out of this because we got to talk. There is so much stuff I have got to tell you about this show. I don't even know where to begin. So I'm going to kind of just break it down like this. I go by characters, the story, and then like the overall thoughts on everything, and then my hopes and dreams for part 2, Wasteland. So we got part 1. It's called Siege. Now I'm gonna get to my nitpicks in a second, and they're very few, but it keeps it for me giving it a perfect 10. There's just a little few things that I pick out, and keep in mind I'm a reviewer, so that's kind of my thing. Like, I nitpick everything, but for a show like this, for an animation, it took me from left field. Like, I knew it was going to be good from the trailers. If you guys seen my channel, I did a trailer reaction. I was super excited, but I didn't know how good this show was going to be. Like, wow. I literally sat down with the girl. She's a huge Transformer fan. We sat down and we watched this thing straight through. It's 25 minutes long. There's 6 episodes, so it's a good like hour and a half, roughly. It's like the length of a movie. This thing was like a movie. It was like a movie broken into parts. So basically, the war on Cybertron is the battle between Optimus Prime and Megatron. Now, this is a little bit of a misnomer because they said this is supposed to be like the beginning, but actually this show is not the beginning of the war. This is about the middle of the war. and they're getting to the part where Optimus Prime is kind of running out of options. Megatron is building up his forces. Optimus is losing their planet. It looks like shit. And basically, one of them needs a huge weapon to take out the other side. Now, let me get to the characters. Holy shit, the characters. If you are a Transformers fan, if you are a fan of the Transformers franchise, like you are a hardcore Transformers, that's your thing. That's not my thing. I only knew some of the robots. There were so many robots, I had no clue who they were. But my girl's a huge fan, and she filled in the blanks. So they had Roller, they had Magnus, who we'll get to him. He has a huge role. They had the Supreme Prime, some giant like fucking 90-foot robot who's like a guardian. They had like tons of robots. So I kind of got to break it down to the most important. So the most important is Optimus and Megatron. So their storyline is basically they've been waging a war. It's like a year or two into the war. Cybertron is wrecked. Megatron is trying to be Optimus. And here's the thing where I said Megatron is not one-dimensional anymore. Megatron is actually honorable in this. Yeah, I know. I actually felt bad because Megatron's backstory is messed up. This thing is dark. It's very dark. And basically, the short end of it is Megatron and the Decepticons are actually slaves to the Primes. I never knew that. I don't know if it's a part of the Transformers lore or if they covered in a comic book. I have no clue. I don't follow it like that. I only seen the movies. Thank you, Omega Supreme. He's in this too. But Megatron and the Decepticons were actually slave labor, basically, and they worked under the Primes, but Megatron had a penchant for war. He was a good tactician. Oh, that's the other thing, too. Megatron is like an expert tactician, and they show it in this show. Like, he sets traps, and it's not like the 80s stupid, like, Optimus figures it. Like, he sets legit really good traps for Optimus, who narrowly escapes several episodes. But him and his clan were slaves to the Primes, and he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. The person who was the original Prime had taken Megatron because he saw potential in him. Megatron actually was supposed to lead, then Optimus took over. Because at the last minute, they kind of saw that he was warmonger. He liked to fight. He liked the battle. And so the responsibilities of the Primes passed on to Optimus Prime and Magnus. So originally, Megatron was supposed to be like a co-leader, and Optimus and Megatron were supposed to take Cybertron into the future. I don't know if any of you knew that. I had no clue. And it added a certain layer because now I just didn't see Megatron as this like asshole, but like as this character who they're basically brothers fighting each other. They're friends. They fought in this other war with each other. And I mean, they literally fought side by side. So the betrayal that Megatron does is that much more crazy and impactful. And I think that one thing this show does well is flesh out the main characters extremely well. Even the side characters. Like when someone died in this show, they built the character enough to where I was like, actually, damn, I didn't see that coming. Like, wow, they really killed them off. The show builds characters in a short time frame very well. So Optimus and Megatron, big battle there. That's the main focal point of the story. Now, Optimus is the Optimus Prime that you know and love, except for one difference. This is Optimus Prime pre-Earth. He literally just kind of took over the reins. He was supposed to, this is like his first day ruling kind of a thing, and this war breaks out. So he's a new ruler. And this show does a great job in showing the mistakes that Optimus Prime makes during this war. And it's really great because they show that Optimus is not like the Optimus we know later on Earth, where he's willing to sacrifice and people are just willing to die for him. Um, this is um, this is more of a Optimus who doesn't know how to lead his people and doesn't know if he should cross that line. He's willing to do shit that like Earth Optimus Prime wouldn't think about doing. Like I saw like in this show, he does some stuff that is almost bordering on what a Decepticon would do. Like there's a great line, I think it's episode 4, where the Broken, where he was like Megatron sets a trap. They basically got to spring it, and he has a girlfriend, by the way. I forgot what her name was. My girl knows all of the Transformers, but she's like, we can't do this, blah blah blah. We're gonna get a lot of people killed, and he goes, "I will fight Megatron how I must, even if I must fight like him." And I was like, "Whoa!" Optimus basically just said he's willing to get in the dirt with Megatron in order to beat him. And really, the big theme in this show is about how far each side is willing to go until Megatron pulls a completely crazy move. But Optimus pulls an even shittier move, and it has to do with the AllSpark. And I'll get to that because, like, okay, the crux of the original Transformers is that the world of Cybertron was dead, right? And they took the old AllSpark to Earth. But Optimus killed Cybertron. Like, no shit. That's what I said. If you look like this, that's what I said. I was like, what? He took basically the planet's life force, the AllSpark, and stole it, knowing it would kill their planet, to basically say fuck you to Megatron. And there's a great part where Megatron looks at him and he goes, "They call me the bad guy, but you're willing to kill our planet. I wouldn't even do something like that." And I go, wow, like, bit of a dick. That's a dick move. Like, wow. Like, it's great because it really doesn't say one side or the other is right, but it shows you that each side does shitty stuff and that these heroes are not really heroes. Now, don't think they went DC dark. They didn't go Zack Snyder dark here. There is jokes, there is some humor, but it's very dark, very gritty, like the kind of Transformers that I would hope. The craziest part is this thing is Y7, and I think I heard him say fuck in one episode, and they said ass in another one. I was like, whoa, like the Transformers curse. Okay, that's new. But yeah, it's a lot more of an adult tale, and there's kids elements in there. Like I said, there was only really 2 curse words, and you really had to listen. I caught it because like I was locked in for this review. But let's talk about the next character, my personal favorite. I love Megatron, Optimus, and Bumblebee. Bumblebee, wow, learned all this whole show. The crux of this show is a particular event that happens with Bumblebee where he is so important, and it's really interesting because the movies talk about how he's like a lieutenant, but they don't tell you like how important Bumblebee is, because the interesting part is Bumblebee is not a Prime and he's not a Decepticon, or he's not an Autobot and he's not a Decepticon. He's not part of the House of Prime. He's a nomad, and I never knew that. I don't know, once again, if it's part of the lore. I'm not a big fan like that, but Bumblebee is from a nomadic group of people who like travel, and they're basically like they hunt for Energon, and they're mercenaries basically for the highest bidder. And he does a job with the Autobots, and they try, like literally they try 3 episodes to recruit Bumblebee, and he basically tells them to go fuck themselves. He wants nothing to do with the war. He does not like the Autobots. He does not like the Decepticons. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And a lot of the show hinges on which side he's going to go with. And it's really interesting because I never knew he was not even an Autobot. He was never part of the war. He was drafted basically, or something happens because I'm not going to cover everything, but something happens and he goes and joins the Autobots. And it was so interesting to see Bumblebee more fleshed out. And oh my God, so the comic relief in this comes from Bumblebee. Bumblebee's a wise ass. It is hilarious. I loved it. It made me love the character more than I already did. Like he is a serious, like sarcastic asshole throughout this whole thing. And he's probably the only one who talks like that to Optimus Prime. It is hilarious. And it's, like I said, some of the relief that you need because the show is so serious. So, Bumblebee, I wouldn't say he's full on the comic relief because there's a lot of serious things that happen, but he's kind of like that humor that keeps it from going too dark. So Bumblebee is very well done. I loved it. His character gives so much more gravity. And essentially in this show, we, the audience, are Bumblebee because he's not on either side. So we're seeing the war through his eyes. And there's like a part, I believe it's in episode 2, um, where he goes into the med bay of the Autobots, and there's all of these like Transformers, legs ripped off, half their bodies missing, things like that. It's like a field medic station, and they're all talking about how they're tired and they're fatigued, and they just want this war to end. And and he sees all this, and he's like, "This is why I'm not gonna join either side. I don't care for this. You both can kill each other for all I care. You guys have destroyed Cybertron." And then something happens and he winds up joining the Autobots. But I mean, yeah, there's a defector too. Jetfire. They explain how Jetfire became part of the Autobots. And it is a really crazy, sad scene. There's sad moments. Yeah, in a cartoon, there is legitly sad moments in this show. So with that, let me get to the character of Magnus. One of the most important characters. I had heard about this story vaguely in the movies, but the show shows what happens to Magnus. Apparently, he's a friend of Optimus and Megatron. The three of them kind of made up this council. They were war buddies. They fought together, and after the war had started, Magnus sided with, of course, with Optimus. But he is tired, beaten down, and he wants his friends to stop fighting. He wants them to put aside their differences, and neither Optimus nor Megatron are budging on this issue. Like, they will not stop until one of them is declared the ruler of Cybertron. That's basically where we're at. There's no stopping it. So Magnus just gets the bright idea. He's going to go and he's going to talk to Megatron and try to talk sense into him. And that is where Megatron turns. Like, Megatron kind of has redeeming qualities for about 4 episodes, and then 5 and 6 is the turning point to the Megatron we all know and love, where he's just basically does something that drives him crazy. And I think really the war makes him even more evil because there's a lot of scenes where he has a shred of humanity. He wants to fight with honor. He doesn't like want to shoot people in their back, things like that. And then there's like a tipping point about halfway where he gets to a point where he's like, I've got to do what the other side is not willing to do in order to win. And a part of me said, yeah, that makes sense. You're in a war. They're fighting for Cybertron, and it made sense. I mean, you could say what you want to, that he's a villain or whatever, but one side's got to be willing to do what the other side won't do in order to win. And it made sense. And here's the thing about the writing. So let's dive into that. The writing is so solid and sharp that they juggle a lot. Keep in mind, these episodes are only 25 minutes and there's 6 episodes. And you would think that they could not pack a lot of story. Let me tell you something. They pack so much backstory, so much revelation, some shocking moments, some huge battle scenes, some downtime and characterization. There, I honestly thought that like a huge studio had developed this. I had no clue it was Rooster Teeth and some other people I've never heard of. And it's amazing to see that a company that came from doing YouTube and things like that put together a show like this, or they were on Machine Cinema. They put together a show like this, and they're better than half of the Hollywood people. This is written better than Michael Bay's shitty Transformer movies that came out. And don't get me wrong, I like the first 2. 3, 4, and they can all fuck off. I don't like the rest of them, but the first 2 movies were okay. The rest of them are ridiculous. And it's amazing to see that they could write a better story than a big film director with a big budget could do. Like, this clearly had a good budget because the animation is like nothing I've seen them do before. I've watched most of their stuff. But their writing, the story is like, they love Transformers. They love Transformers. They got the lore down. They got the characters down. They focus on fleshing out Bumblebee, Optimus, and Megatron so well that you feel like you are conflicted as they're fighting because you don't know who's right or wrong, because either one of these opposing sides could be right. I never got to the end of a series where I was switching between rooting for the bad guy and the good guy. Like, there's a point where I'm like, well, Megatron's right, but Prime's kind of an asshole. And then there's points where I was like, oh no, Megatron, he crossed the line. Optimus, go. I mean, this show does an amazing job with tugging at your emotions, drawing you into the story, and fleshing out what could have been a kid's simplistic show. It really hits you with like war and what it means for both sides. Yes, I agree. Bumblebee was a good movie, Gary, and I'm not saying Bumblebee, I don't consider it part of the Michael Bay slog that they had. Yeah, Bumblebee was a great movie, and this show follows that format. Like, this is OG Transformers, and they pay homage to Transformers I've never even seen. They got Starscream, Soundwave, Omega Prime, Megatron, Optimus, Bumblebee, the medical dude. They got every Transformer you know and love, and they fleshed them out in 6 episodes to where when someone dies, you feel it. Let's talk about I said die, right? So Magnus, who is the right hand to Optimus, goes to see Megatron. He wants to talk some sense into him. Naturally, Megatron captures him. And this is a big turning point for Megatron. He fucking blows Magnus out of the water. Like, yes, Shockwave. They have Shockwave, yes. He blows Magnus out of the water. Like, dude, straight scumbag style. Like, it was so great too. It was classic Megatron. This is in episode 4, Crossing the Line, where and the title's appropriate. But anyways, Magnus gives this great speech, right? Because this is where Megatron learns about the AllSpark. And like, here's the deal. Here's why they finally explain why the AllSpark is so goddamn important, because they said, oh, it can create life. That was all bullshit, okay? The AllSpark is important because with the AllSpark, you can control every other Transformer. I did not know that. So Megatron makes a decision that he is going to essentially reprogram all of the Autobots. So Shockwave, who's like this like scientist person, says he can reverse engineer it so that they can turn everyone on the planet, and it would basically make him like a dictator. They would all just become Decepticons. And his reasoning for it was that because he was a slave class, everyone would be equal. There wouldn't be the primes who have the big luxurious things and the Decepticons working in these mines and things like that. Everyone would be on a level playing field. And it kind of made sense to me. I was like, wow. I mean, not the right way to go about it, but I understand where he's coming from. And so this is the point where he starts kind of losing some of his generals, because Jetfire, who's like his number two, and of course Starscream, they're battling for control of the fleet. Which, by the way, Starscream, perfectly done, ultra douchebaggy, like the Starscream we know and love. It's amazing. Even in the past, this guy's just straight douchebag, like for himself, opportunist. Mwah, nailed it. Anyways, so Jetfire led the original things, and slowly he starts disagreeing with Megatron, and Megatron then crosses the line and kills Magnus in front of him. And he gives the most cold-blooded, like he says some cold-blooded shit before he blows him away. And he's like, he goes, Magnus just has like one last ditch effort, because they're to this planet and they think they're going into the Autobots, secret lair or whatever, because they torture him. Oh yeah, there's torture in this show, by the way. They torture the shit out of Magnus for like, I don't even know how long, probably like a couple hours. And then he's like, yeah, I'll give you the location. And he leads them to like this big ass fancy structure. And he goes to open it, and he pleads with him again. Opens the door, nothing inside. Megatron naturally is pissed. Dude, Magnus, badass. He just like breaks the cuffs, which says to me he could have did that at any time. I don't know why he waited at that point, but I think he knew he was done anyways. He breaks the cuffs, like bodies two guards, like just takes their gun out, bam, bam, blows them away, like freaking elbows another bot, turns around, and he has his gun pointed at Megatron's back. Now, this is the moment, and this shows you how ruthless Megatron is. He has his gun pointed to his back, like it's got him dead to rights. And he says to Megatron, turn around. And like Megatron's like, no. He says, are you so honorable you won't shoot a man in the back? He's like, Magnus, these aren't those times. He goes, go ahead. If you kill me, you're going to have to shoot me in the back, but you won't. Yeah, Gary. He's still looking to overthrow him. You see that in the show. Anyways, so Magnus is like sitting here thinking about it, right? And so Megatron says, this is the difference, and this is why the Autobots won't win. Honor is dead. And he pulls out his gun and shoots like underneath like this, like, Han Solo style, in the cantina when he just kind of goes like that. Yeah, he pulls one of those deals and shoots him through the chest. And then, he doesn't stop there, right? He does it like execution style. Magnus is down, big ass hole, steps on his chest and shoots him again. I was like, oh yeah, Megatron's he crossed the line. Like, he executed Magnus, and then to add insult to injury, uses his best friend's body to send a virus to the Autobots' main base so that there's a giant infection and they can't communicate with each other. I was like watching and going like, wow, there is some fucked up shit going on. Like, both sides do some really messed up stuff, and I was just like, whoa, like I didn't see that coming. And Magnus, they build up for like 2 episodes. Like, he's not a main character, but he's in it enough talking, and you kind of get used to him in the background. So you're thinking like he's gonna be in the show for at least like 2 parts. I don't know. I mean, I kind of knew because I never saw him in the movies. So I kind of had a feeling he wasn't going to be there, but I didn't know, like, wow, like, oh, and Magnus had half of the power of the Prime. Didn't know this either. Apparently, the Primes pass on their power, but Optimus got the grand idea that no one Prime should have all the power in case one of them gets killed, it goes somewhere else. So the power and the knowledge of the primes is split between Optimus Prime and Magnus. Magnus gets killed, and when this thing leaves his body, it's called the Alpha Protocol. When it leaves its body, it goes to this tower. That's why he led everyone to the tower. He touched his hand on it as he was dying, and all the knowledge shot up and went into the air. And it finds a worthy successor. Guess who happens to be wandering around when this shit is going down, gathering Inatron or whatever? Like, he's like, F the Autobots, going about his business. Bumblebee. Bumblebee has half of the knowledge of the primes. Never knew that. That's why Bumblebee is his second, because the Omega Prime or the Alpha Prime, whoever died in the beginning, he chose his successor, and the power chooses the most worthy and purest of the Autobots, blah, blah, blah. That whole shtick. And so it chose Bumblebee. And Bumblebee was like, I don't want this. I don't want to be in this war. You guys need to leave me alone. And then he gets these flashes of what could happen in the AllSpark and realizes that he's got to choose a side and chooses the Autobots and basically leads them to the AllSpark. So, that was great. I loved it. I thought that was a great, impactful thing. Those are your characters. That's the story, basically. Now, I'd say as far as the battles go, the battles are great. But where the show is really good is it's not so much the war that is the highlight. It's not about stuff blowing up like Michael Bay. Right? It's not about blowing shit up and just giant robots fighting. The story is so impactful because it is about the choices that everyone makes. And it really gives you a great insight because not one side is just squeaky clean. Like, you go into it going, yeah, Autobots, Optimus, fuck Megatron, he's an asshole. But actually, Megatron is not exactly wrong. Like, and if you're a Decepticon fan, you're like, yeah, fuck the Autobots, Megatron. But Megatron does messed up stuff too. But the biggest thing that this story does is it kind of paints the hero as not really a hero, but desperate, because the last episode, he does something so messed up. He makes a decision that it affects the whole race, and he takes no one into consideration when making this choice. He's just like, I'm doing this. We got to win for our planet's survival. I'm taking this. So they go for the AllSpark. First off, this whole scene was fantastic. They got to go through this like hidden thing. There's a giant like cyclone thing, and in the center of it is the AllSpark, and there's these zombie robot things that are sparkless. So they lost their spark, but they're still being animated by the AllSpark, like kind of like Guardians. Dude, there is a scene. Okay, there's a scene where they fight like these zombie kind of transformer things. Yeah. F them Autobots. Yeah, but there's this scene where they fight these zombie things, and Optimus does like a full-on Evel Knievel, transforms into himself, grabs for the AllSpark, grabs it by his hand. It's the most beautiful shot. I'm gonna just say this now. It is the most beautiful shot I've seen across any animated thing. I'm sorry. Come at me. You can say what you want to. This is like on the level of like Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks kind of like, this shot is on that kind of like quality animation where my mouth was literally like like that, just watching this whole scene. And it's a good, like, I don't know, 5-minute scene. So, I mean, it was pretty crazy. And then so I mean there was some crazy moments in this, but uh the the craziest part was this one scene. They fight the zombie things. Optimus jumps up, grabs the AllSpark, and all of those all of those things guarding it were kind of like but anyways, sorry, took a break there. Got some stuff going on. Anyways, so the zombie things fight. He grabs the AllSpark. Zombie things die. It's not the biggest fight in this show, but it's probably the most amazing shot that I've seen in a show, animated ever, probably. The way the animation is done and the way that they frame the shot, like they show him going off of this cliff, they show him transforming, and then all you see is like Optimus's big hand reaching for the Allspark. And here's the thing. This is an important key role because the Allspark, without it, eventually every robot on the planet will die. So why I say Optimus Prime's kind of a douchebag is because he basically, once he takes this AllSpark, he kills his home world. So the choice throughout this whole first part is he going to kill the rest of the Autobots and Decepticons or who's ever left on the home planet in order to win? The answer is yes. And it's funny because Megatron makes a quote earlier where he says, the only way this war is going to be won is if one of us does something the other's not willing to do. And this is where I say Megatron's kind of not really a bad guy in this story because Megatron says to Optimus that he's willing to do something that he across a line he wasn't even willing to cross because basically that's like dropping a nuke. He basically nuked his home world when he realized that Megatron actually had a real chance of winning. And Megatron's plan was he was going to use the AllSpark and take control of everyone, so they're both kind of wrong. But this was an amazing shot. Another great shot is the end battle. The end battle. So let me tell you, the end battle of this show, I had no clue what the hell an Megatron thing is. This giant ass robot who's a guardian. There's like 5 of them, and they're like these guardians. And Optimus is desperate. He asks them for help because they like weigh in on like cataclysmic stuff, and they basically say no. And then at the end, and he's about to take the AllSpark, and you know how they have like the time gates or whatever. He is going to go through this thing with the AllSpark and take it off world to another planet. And this freaking like giant ass transformer, like bigger than any of them. He looks like the Godzilla of Transformers, comes out and he's like, I'm a prime, blah blah blah, and he starts just messing up all of Megatron's forces and throws Megatron like 50 feet. I don't know. Megatron and the Decepticons are shooting this thing and it's just bouncing off of them. And so that scene was amazing. Like when they did the big reveal, once again, I don't know the lore like most people do. I'm just a fan of giant robots fighting, and I like Optimus, Bumblebee, and Megatron. Those are my 3 big ones, and Windblade. But I mean, other than that, I don't really. I'm not like in it like that. This isn't like a Star Wars or a Marvel or DC for me, so I don't know much. I know just a bit to know and get the references. But there were a lot of characters in here, and like Optimus is like, I guess, his love. I don't know what the robots do, what that all entails, but he has a girlfriend. She stays. Jetfire stays. Uh, Chrome or yeah, I forget who the blue robot is. I think her name is Chrome or something. She stays. Dude, mad robots wind up staying knowing that the planet is going to die and they're fighting against Megatron, who's going to kill them and eventually find a way, because you guys know the rest. But Optimus gets his giant ship, goes off world, bam. So what are my final thoughts? Holy shit. This is how I wanted Transformers done. You had good characters, good development, no humans, no humans. I'm so happy this is just the robots. You gave depth to Megatron and Optimus Prime. You gave depth to essentially cartoon characters. These robots, they make them feel like people, and they make you question both sides of this war. And then it makes a kind of a statement about how when you are fighting a battle, the lines become blurry. And if you follow it from this point and not from when Megatron goes to Earth, you actually really, who's good and evil is a matter of perspective. Um, Optimus does some really shady stuff in this that I never knew about. I guess it's in the lore. I just don't follow it like that. And he really pulls the end game card. So, I mean, thank you. Gary, I can tell you're a fan of Transformers. Gary North here, showing me some love for my references. Thank you. But like, this show doesn't paint one side or the other, and it makes a strong statement about war in general and how both sides in their own way could feel like they're right, and they might even have valid points. And who you choose to side with, it's not necessarily a case of right and wrong, but it's more of perspective and opinion, right? Like who you feel more aligned with in your views, and not so much what the actual right thing is. And at this point, the planet is like pretty messed up looking. So this war has been raging for like quite some time before this like end game thing came. So they both, in their own stubbornness, kind of ruined their planet. And I never got what Optimus meant where he says in the movies, I've made a lot of bad choices. It's because of me and Megatron that we destroyed our world. He referenced this in the movies, and I guess shout out to Michael Bay. He actually did research. Anyways, it's referenced in the movies, but this shows you that like Optimus is not like this beacon of hope that he is when he comes to Earth, and that he can be such a good leader and be so inspiring to now the human characters and the people who side with the Transformers, because he's made the mistakes to realize that there's got to be a better way. And I think that this show really highlights that well. And it doesn't just paint like Megatron as this asshole who does things, because Megatron's people were slaves, and he kind of felt betrayed by Optimus. Like he had this plan for them to rule, but kind of the way he wanted to, and Optimus like turned on him and basically tried to kill him. And that puts a stall on any kind of friendship. But they were like brothers, man. Like he basically was adopted into the primes, and they don't cover this anywhere else. So it kind of now puts a spin like two brothers fighting, and Megatron's kind of like the older brother and Optimus is the younger brother. And it's really interesting to see, because that explains why Megatron doesn't always seem like he wants to kill Optimus at times. There's a lot of points where he kind of just lets him go or whatever. And you really see that Megatron isn't like this evil guy that we've come to know. He does have a code in the beginning of the show. He does have kind of things he won't do until Optimus pulls the AllSpark. And then he's like, the gloves are coming off because I've got to be willing to go further than the other guy. And in a sense, Optimus created the Megatron that we get on Earth. He made him the bastard that he is when he comes to Earth because he did something so horrendous that Megatron kind of went crazy, man. Like he went that extra mile that Megatron didn't think the good guy was willing to go. I mean, he killed their world. Like, this is such a pivotal moment in the show, and it's really sad. Like, when he pulls the AllSpark, I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach, like it was so wrong. And that's the testament to this writing, is that when he did that, I felt it, man. Like, I felt dirty for watching it. Like, I was like, man, like, you're the hero. Like, you're the good guy. Like, you're supposed to be the guy who uses every option before he goes to the self-destruct. He uh, Optimus just straight up, like, he's the douche. Like, wow. Like, he straight up just fucked over his own people for the sake of saving his people. And that's the kind of the irony of this, is that he also kills his race to save it, I guess, is the whole thing. And this is some of my nitpicks with the show, so I'm going to get into my cons because I know I've been praising this thing, but some of my things is the motivations at times seem a little murky, seem a little muddled. Now, keep in mind, there's 3 parts and there's 6 episodes. So it's really crazy. Uh, Lots of stuff that they can pack into 6 episodes at 25 minutes piece. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot more backstory that'll really flesh out Optimus. But in this one, they do paint them both in kind of this way. And it doesn't always work to how we know Optimus to be. Now, I do give that a pass, though, at the same token, because they do get some leeway because this is a prequel. This isn't like the Optimus Prime we know. This is like been to war for years against Megatron. All hope is lost, like beginning of Star Wars Optimus. So this is like a desperate Prime who's willing to cross the line clearly to beat the other guy. And this is my, I guess, my one flaw. It's my one flaw with this whole entire show, is that I kind of like the jumps were kind of jarring. But Bumblebee's arc was really good, and I like the transition he made, like making him not want to pick a side. I thought that was good. Megatron was amazing, probably my favorite arc, because he goes from being just a bad guy to a really bad guy. Like, he goes from, I still have honor. Yeah, I'll take you prisoner. I might beat the shit out of you, but he's not like on that just kill him kind of thing. By the end of this, he's just like shoot you in the chest while you're dead kind of guy. So that all does it well. Also, I think the show could have been slightly longer. 6 episodes, 25 minutes felt really short to me. I think this show should have had like maybe 10 episodes at 25 minutes. I would have definitely, because I mean, you just pop this on and it's so good. You're like at the end like that. And that's my other like big nitpick, is the time. This is one where I wish they gave us more. Like, there's another year before Wasteland comes out, which is part 2. I gotta wait another year. Like, I gotta wait till 2021 for the next part. I'm super pissed, folks. 2021, that's like a year away, okay? Gotta wait till then, and then I think 2022 is when the third part comes out. So, which is to be titled, you know. So, anyways, all in all, this was a great show. I know I kind of gave you a long-winded explanation. I got into the nuts and bolts, but the voice acting too was another issue that I had. Megatron's voice was kind of a hit or a miss. I like the other voice actor. Optimus's Prime's voice is really good at some points and really kind of not, and you'll know what I mean if you watch the show. There'll be some points where you can tell it's a different voice actor. But once again, folks, I'm really like nitpicking here because that's my job. So time length, some of the voice acting, but all in all, the CGI in this is solid. The animation is solid. The story is solid. The characters are fleshed out. The story is amazing. I can't wait for part two. Definitely go check it out. It's on Netflix right now. My next live review is going to be the Umbrella Club season dose. I've been waiting for this as long as I've been waiting for Transformers, so it just dropped today. So I'm going to be watching it today and tomorrow, and I'll probably have my review up Sunday because tomorrow I have my show. Check me out tonight. I will have late night talks with the ever sarcastic, speaking of sarcasm, my Bumblebee. PB will be on here. So join me, Cybernetic Husky. Maybe we'll have an Australia and Stevie J, and maybe the elusive Perp Minded will be here as well. Where we're going to just talk about bullshit going on in the news because, as you know, there's always bullshit coming out of Hollywood. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching. If you like this, go on and transform that like button. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and blast that subscribe button. And, if you like my reviews, leave me some comments if you have any more questions, anything I can answer, if I didn't cover anything, and go ahead and share this video with other people. Let them know about my reviews. I try to do these whenever a show comes out. Once my laptop gets up and running, I might do like a watch along. I don't know the logistics about that. I don't really like to do it with newer stuff, so I don't want to get like copyright claimed. But yeah, I might do a watch along for some stuff. We'll see what I can legally get away with. But anyways, this has been fun. Thank you, everybody. Tune in tonight for late night talks at the midnight hour. You all have a wonderful day. And remember the only rule here in the fandom zone: kneel before your Lord Megatron. Now roll out.